So welcome to the 11th vlog on Ecclesiastes, and today we're looking at Ecclesiastes 10. If you're joining us for the first time, I would encourage you to go back and look at the other sessions that we have been doing as we look at Ecclesiastes and look at how Ecclesiastes relates to our life and what we can learn from it, and particularly at this time of COVID. So Ecclesiastes 10 says, "Dead flies putrefy the perfume's anointment, and cause it to give off a foul odour. So does a little folly to one respected for wisdom and honour. A wise man's heart is at his right hand, and a fool's heart is at his left. Even when a fool walks along the way, he lacks wisdom, and he shows everyone that he is a fool. If the spirit of the ruler rises against you, do not leave your post, for conciliation pacifies great offences. There is an evil I have seen under the sun, as an error proceeding from the ruler. Folly is set in great dignity, while the rich sit in a lowly place. I have seen servants on horses, while princes walk on the ground like servants. He who digs a pit will fall into it, and whoever breaks through a wall will be bitten by a serpent. He who quarries stones may be hurt by them, and he who splits wood may be endangered by it. If the axe is dull, and one does not sharpen the edge, then he must use more strength, but wisdom brings success. A serpent may bite when it is not charmed. The babbler is no different. The words of a wise man's mouth are gracious, but the lips of a fool shall swallow them up. The words of his mouth bring with foolishness, and the end of his talk is raving madness. A fool also multiplies words. No man knows what is to be, nor can tell him what will be after him. The labour of fools wearies them, for they do not even know how to go to the city. Woe to you, O land, when your king is a child, and your princes feast in the morning. Blessed are you, O Lord, when your king is the son of nobles, and your princes feast at the proper time, for strength and not for drunkenness. Because of laziness the building decays, and through idleness of hands the house leaks. A feast is made for laughter, and wine makes merry, but money answers everything. Do not curse the king even in your thought. Do not curse the rich even in your bedroom. For a bird of the air may carry your voice, and a bird in flight may tell the matter." So again, a lot to unpack within this one chapter. And we're just going to be skimming the surface to give you things to be thinking about and how that may reflect in our own lives today. But Solomon starts by talking about dead flies. Now, what a start. Dead flies putrefy the perfumer's anointment and cause it to give off a foul odour. So does a little folly to one respected for wisdom and honour. I love that imagery because a little folly is just like putting dead flies in a perfume. Why on earth would you do it? And I think this is the question that sometimes we have to ask. Why would we do things? Why would we do things that we know are foolish, that are potentially wicked and evil? Why? Why would we do things? And we can look around the world and we can point fingers at the world, but let's come back to ourselves for a minute. Why would we do things? And often it can be because we don't see the sinful nature within the things that we do. And that's being part of the sinful world. But the prayer is that, Lord, open our eyes to our own folly, so that we're not like dead flies in the perfume. It's something to really be thinking about as we go around our daily life. Is are we putting dead flies into our perfume? And he then goes on to say about if the spirit of the ruler rises against you, do not leave your post, for conciliation pacifies great offences. We mentioned this in the previous session about not taking offence to rulers and being following authority. And again, he brings this up here. If the spirit of the ruler rises against you, do not leave your post. If somebody in authority upsets us, we're not to just pack our bags and walk away. We're to try and reconcile with them. And that brings boldness, it brings strength that we need to be able to go to somebody in authority and say, actually, that affects us. But the reconciliation that can come from that is huge. Sometimes the person doesn't even know that what they've done has caused offence. So it's key that we don't just walk away, because as we said in the previous session, sometimes God has put us in those situations for a certain reason. And if we walk away, it's potential that God will put us back in that situation through another means for our learning. So what do we learn in it? What do we need to learn within that situations? And so walking away from a situation, walking away from an authority isn't always the answer. Then he talks about, I have seen servants on horses while princes walk on the ground like servants. Now, that's just beautiful. I have seen servants on horses while princes walk on the ground like servants. We are called to be servants. We are called to have a servant heart. And that's what Jesus did. Jesus came to serve. And Solomon is saying that he's seen this happening. He has seen servants on horses and princes on the ground and walking under those servants. We are called to live a servant life. We are not called to put ourselves into authority positions to put ourselves into power. We are called ourselves to put into servant positions. And dare I say this, but how many times do we see churches and pastors putting themselves into powerful positions rather than serving positions? That's the danger of the church, the danger of leadership in a church, of putting into a position of power rather than a position of humbleness and servanthood. And our church, there are churches across the globe today that where leaders of the church don't do that. Now, I'm not going to say that the mega churches are all the same, because they're not. And I know some pastors in mega churches that have got such a servant heart. It's amazing and it's unbelievable. But there are churches as well where this does not happen. And there are small churches where this does not happen. And it's such a sad state of affairs that we have leaders who are putting themselves into positions of power rather than into positions of servanthood. And we could go on looking throughout this passage of all these things. Solomon again talks about labour and life. The whole thing is about life and everything. But just going to finish with this. Do not curse the king even in your thought. Do not curse the rich even in your bedroom, for a bird of the air may carry your voice, and a bird in flight may tell the matter. There's a warning. Any time we curse, even in our own minds, we need to be repentant. Why? Because that curse in our own minds, in our own thoughts, that curse that we say even in our bedroom, goes into our hearts. When we are bad-mouthing somebody, even in our thoughts, that goes into our hearts. And God sees that. God sees our hearts. God hears our thoughts. And so our thoughts are heard by him. And it's those things that displease him again. So we can go around and we can say, I don't do this and I don't do that and I do this and I do that. But what are we doing in our hearts? What are we doing in our minds? It comes back to dead flies putrefy the perfumer's anointment. Are we being foolish in our thoughts as well as in our deeds? Bless you. I hope this is, again, it's challenged me, and we will catch up again when we come to Ecclesiastes 11.